Robert Reynolds was a middle-aged meth addict with no job, no future, and a voice in his head telling him he was worthless. Then he broke into a laboratory, drank an experimental serum, and became the most powerful being on Earth. Stronger than Thor, faster than the Hulk, he can fly into the sun and come back smiling. And then he erased his own memory and made the entire world forget he ever existed. The serum didn't just give him powers, it created a perfect superhero in an afternoon, 100,000 times stronger than the next strongest Avenger. Molecular manipulation, telepathy, reality warping. The Sentry can do things that make Doctor Strange look like he's doing card tricks. He tore Ares, the actual god of war, in half with his bare hands. He fought the entire Avengers roster simultaneously, and they couldn't stop him. He once carried the corpse of a celestial, a being the size of a planet, into deep space just to give it a proper burial. And for 40 years, Robert Reynolds had zero memory of any of it. He spent 4 decades as an overweight, anxious nobody, feeling the crushing weight of something he couldn't name, while the Marvel universe moved on without him. The world forgot the Sentry existed, because he made them forget. He wiped every record, erased every memory, and buried himself in obscurity, trading godhood for ignorance. And before you ask, why would anyone do that? Why erase yourself when you're literally the most powerful person alive? Because of what he created alongside himself. When Robert Reynolds became the Sentry, his powers manifested his darkest self as a separate entity. Every addiction, every self-destructive thought, every moment of self-hatred, it all became the Void. A shadow creature with all of Sentry's power and none of his restraint. And here's the part that makes this character genuinely terrifying. The Void isn't an enemy he fights. It is him. It's his mental illness given physical form and godlike power, and it is exactly as strong as he is. Every time he saves the world, the Void destroys something in return. They're locked in a cycle because you can't outrun yourself. That's not a villain. That's a diagnosis. This is where every other superhero breakdown would tell you about strength levels and power rankings and who beats who in a fight. That's not what makes the Sentry interesting. What makes him interesting is that his greatest enemy lives inside his own head. He wakes up every morning not knowing whether he's the hero today or the villain. He can bend reality with a thought, but he can't trust his own thoughts. Imagine being capable of anything and being terrified of what you might do. 2000. Marvel launches the Sentry in a critically acclaimed miniseries. Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee create something genuinely new, a psychological superhero drama disguised as a Silver Age throwback. It works beautifully. The character joins the new Avengers, positioned as the team's nuclear option. 2008. Dark Reign. Norman Osborn manipulates Sentry into being his enforcer. On the page, you can watch Robert Reynolds deteriorate in real time. The Void surfaces more frequently. He's losing. 2010. Siege. Full psychological collapse. The Void takes over completely, destroys Asgard, kills Ares. The Avengers have no choice. Thor kills their own teammate with a lightning bolt to stop the apocalypse. And honestly, it was a mercy kill. Marvel has resurrected him 3 times since then. Every few years, a new writer looks at this character and thinks, I can fix him. Every single time, the story ends the same way. Realizing that a hero who is both omnipotent and mentally unstable is essentially unpublishable. You can't make him the hero. You can't make him the villain. You can't keep him on a team. You can't let him run solo. And yet Marvel keeps coming back. Because when he works, even for a few issues, he's the most fascinating character in their entire catalog. Now the MCU is reportedly developing him for Thunderbolts. And you might think, wait, if Marvel Comics can't figure this character out after 25 years of trying, what makes Kevin Feige think he can? Here's what's different. The MCU has spent Phase 4 and 5 doing something unexpected. They've moved away from hero punches villain, hero wins. WandaVision was about grief. Moon Knight was about dissociative identity disorder. Loki was about purpose and free will. They're not making superhero stories anymore. They're making character studies that happen to have superpowers in them. That's the exact storyteller you need to crack the Sentry. You can't make a Sentry movie about his powers. A million exploding suns is impressive for roughly 8 seconds. You make a Sentry movie about a man who can do literally anything except the one thing he needs most: live with himself. The Thunderbolts connection is where this gets practical. In the comics, Sentry's best run was with the Dark Avengers, a team of reformed villains, broken heroes, and people one bad decision away from disaster. He was surrounded by characters who understood what it's like to be fundamentally unreliable. That context matters because it solves the too powerful problem without nerfing him. You don't need to make Sentry weaker. You need to make his environment more fragile. If the MCU introduces him through Thunderbolts, not as the unstoppable threat, not as the surprise villain, but as a damaged person trying to hold it together alongside other damaged people, they might actually pull this off. The question isn't whether he can defeat the bad guy. It's whether he can keep himself from becoming the bad guy. But let me give you the bigger reason this matters, and it's not about one character. The MCU has a power scaling crisis. Every phase, the villain has to be bigger. Loki and an alien army. Ultron. Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet. Kang with all of time. The scale keeps inflating, and audiences are starting to check out. When everything is a multiverse-level threat, nothing feels like a threat anymore. The Sentry breaks that cycle, because the most dangerous thing in a Sentry story isn't a cosmic entity that wants to destroy the universe. It's a man who might wake up tomorrow and decide he's the villain. The stakes aren't, will the universe survive? They're, will Robert Reynolds survive his own mind? That's intimate. That's unpredictable. That's filmable. You can't keep raising the cosmic stakes forever. Audiences have already seen half the universe get dusted. But watching one person fight themselves and lose? That never gets old, because we all know what that feels like. So here's how I think this plays out. The Sentry appears first in Thunderbolts, probably as a mystery. Rumors, shadows. The team is sent to contain something, and gradually you realize the thing they're trying to contain is a person. Then his full introduction becomes the turning point. The moment the film reveals that the real threat wasn't whoever the Thunderbolts were sent to fight. It's the guy standing next to them. The guy who might not even be the bad guy. The guy who doesn't know which one he is. If Marvel plays this as a character study, if they treat Robert Reynolds the way WandaVision treated grief, or the way Moon Knight treated fractured identity, the Sentry could become the most compelling figure in the entire post-Endgame era. He'd be something the MCU has never had before. A hero whose power level is genuinely terrifying, but whose vulnerability is even more terrifying. If they get it wrong, he's another CGI fog monster that audiences forget by the time the next Disney Plus show drops. Just like every version of the character Marvel Comics has tried and abandoned. No pressure. Here's why I made this video. I've been doing this series on superheroes so powerful that studios give up on them. And the Sentry is the one I keep coming back to. Not because he's the strongest, but because he's the most human. His power is a metaphor for something real. The voice in his head. The thing he can't escape. The fear that his worst self might be his true self. That's not a comic book problem. That's a human problem wearing a golden cape. So here's my question. If you were writing the MCU's Sentry, is he the hero, the villain, or something that doesn't have a name yet? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one, and I'm genuinely curious where people land on this. I've changed my own answer 3 times just making this video. If you want more breakdowns like this, characters Hollywood is too scared to touch, subscribe and hit the bell. We do this every week. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.